Hi, hi, hi. I'm Lady Shasha, mistress of the snark, connoisseur of the gore, and your hostess with the mostest, and welcome to Horror Week. Sometimes you have to take a break from the news because it can be very stressful and anxiety causing. But let's get into our first story, which is the biggest story, I think, of this past weekend. And that is the Netflix deal, well, possible deal with Warner Brothers. This is being reported by the Hollywood Reporter, also on Deadline Hollywood, but I just happened to find this article first. This is written by George Zalai and Alex Wiepren, and the headline reads, "It's official, Netflix to acquire Warner Brothers in deal valued at $82.7 billion. The streaming giant's proposal includes a $5.8 billion breakup fee and promises to maintain Warner Brothers' current operations, including theatrical releases. Theater owners are already speaking out. Netflix, run by co-CEOs Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters, has agreed to buy Warner Brothers in a mega deal valued at $82.7 billion. Under an effort nicknamed Project Noble, the streaming giant's leadership secured $59 billion in financing from a consortium of banks to assemble the deal. Netflix says the buy would give users more choice and let it optimize its plans. It will also expand its studio operations while creating better value for talent and shareholders, with $2 billion to $3 billion in annual cost savings. The deal proposal has a breakup fee of $5.8 billion, meaning that if the acquisition is scuttled in any way, Netflix has to pay Warner Brothers Discovery those billions. The companies revealed the acquisition early Friday, altering the course of the entertainment business. Netflix said that it expects to maintain the current operations of Warner Brothers, including theatrical releases for films, though specifics aside from top-line deal numbers remain scarce. And that may be the focus of opposition to the acquisition as the dust settles on the announcement. Netflix also made its pitch to filmmakers and creatives, writing that by uniting Netflix's member experience and global reach with Warner Brothers' renowned franchises and extensive library, the company will create greater value for talent, offering more opportunities to work with beloved intellectual property, tell new stories, and connect with a wider audience than ever before. That sounds great, but I definitely have some misgivings, but I'll get more into that as I complete the article. Here we go. WBD shareholders will receive $23.25 in cash, $4.5 in shares on Netflix common stock for each share of WBD common stock, with the linear networks business, including CNN, TNT, HGTV, and Discovery Plus, still set to be spun out. That move is now expected in the third quarter of 2026. Quote, "I know some of you are surprised that we're making this acquisition, and I certainly understand why. Over the years, we have been known to be builders, not buyers," Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos told Wall Street analysts on a conference call Friday morning. "We already have incredible shows and movies and a great business model, and it's working for talent, it's working for consumers, and it's working for shareholders. But this is a rare opportunity, and it's going to help us achieve our mission to entertain the world and to bring people together through great stories. We built a great business, and to do that, we've had to be bold and continue to evolve," he continued. "Remember, we started off as a DVD by mail company. Then we moved to streaming, to producing original content, live programming from a US-centric business to a global business," which I do have to comment on. They have become way more global when it comes to their offerings. I have noticed so many movies that Netflix has that are from India, from Thailand, from South Korea. Also gotten into a lot of the K-dramas. They have a bunch of K-dramas on there. There was a French horror series. The name escapes me, but Netflix has made a concerted effort to become more global or having more global offerings. Let's continue. I lost my spot. "In a world where people have so many choices, more choices than ever, how to spend their time, we can't stand still. We need to keep innovating and investing in stories that matter most to audiences, and that's what this deal is about. This acquisition will improve our offering and accelerate our business for decades to come," continues Greg Peters, co-CEO of Netflix. "Warner Brothers has helped define entertainment for more than a century and continues to do so with phenomenal creative executives, and production capabilities. That's very glowy for you to say, but Warner Brothers has been fucking up for a minute now. So this is part of the reason why you were able to buy them, is because they've been fucking up for a minute now, over and over again, like back to back to back missteps. But I digress. With our global reach and proven business model, we can introduce a broader audience to the worlds they create, giving our members more options, attracting more fans to our best-in-class streaming service, strengthening the entire entertainment industry, and creating more value for shareholders. Okay, they continue. Today's announcement combines two of the greatest storytelling companies in the world to bring even more people the entertainment they love to watch the most. And I would say my criticism of Netflix is that sometimes you guys create really great series and then you discontinue them or cancel them with no closure. So let me continue on here. I'm going to repeat that last part because I kind of lost my place. Today's announcement combines two of the greatest storytelling companies in the, well, that's greatest. That's really, that's subjective. Storytelling companies in the world to bring to even more people the entertainment they love to watch the most, said David Zaslav, CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery. For more than a century, Warner Brothers has thrilled audiences, captured the world's attention, and shaped our culture. By coming together with Netflix, we will ensure people everywhere will continue to enjoy the world's most resonant stories for generations to come. Speaking of Warner Brothers, is Animaniacs on Netflix? If not, I hope they get Animaniacs on Netflix, because I haven't watched in a while, but I remember good times watching Animaniacs. We used to literally still watch that in the college dormitory. We were watching Animaniacs. Okay, so by coming together with Netflix, we will ensure people everywhere will continue to enjoy the world's most resonant stories for generations to come. Netflix arguably emerged as the winner of the streaming wars, and now it is at the Hollywood gates and ready for its latest conquest. Even if it is expected to face heavy regulatory scrutiny, the news came after reports that it was in exclusive talks with Warner Brothers Discovery to acquire its streaming and, ironically, studio business. Not only is it understood to have made the highest offer in terms of financial valuation, a Netflix deal allows WBD to go through with the planned separation of its networks business and allow WBD CFO Gunnar Wiedenfels to become CEO of that global network business. Wall Street analysts have already previewed the logic of the deal. Quote, above all, the flow of new content, which drives the majority of Netflix engagement, Rolf research analyst Peter Supino wrote in a recent report. Content released in the last year makes up only about 5% of the titles on Netflix, but drives over 20% of Netflix's viewing, reflecting that Netflix engagement increases/decreases when content spend goes up and down. Bank of America analyst Jessica Reif-Ehrlich, in a recent report, described the auction of WBD this way, quote, the global media industry stands at the precipice of historic transformation, with WBD positioned at the epicenter. Here's the thing with that. Is this not similar to what Amazon has done by buying? Who did Amazon buy? It's escaping me. Somebody in the comments, if you can remind me who, there was a production company that Amazon recently purchased. And I feel like it's a similar thing. So Netflix is acting like they're doing this groundbreaking thing, but I feel like Amazon Prime has already done a similar thing. Am I wrong? MGM, thank you, Jake. Jake said, yes. Amazon either purchased or merged with MGM. So them speaking of this in terms of it acting like it's I mean, they describe it as a historic, but I'm like, well, then what does that make what Amazon did? Is that not historic? I'm confused, but we'll continue. And she argued that Netflix sealing a deal for WBD's studios and streaming operations would allow it to kill three birds with one stone. The bidding war for WBD's streaming and studio assets reflects the economic reality of the 2025 media environment that mid-sized legacy media studios companies can no longer compete with the unit economics of Netflix or the ecosystem of large tech players such as now they mention Amazon, such as Amazon. She explained, ultimately, an acquisition may be existential for both Paramount Skydance and Comcast NBC Universal. And therefore, aside from potential direct financial benefits, an acquisition by Netflix could potentially be killing three birds with one stone, as WBD would be housed within Netflix and Paramount Skydance. And NBCU/Peacock would, in our view, have difficulty remaining competitive. Morgan Stanley analyst Benjamin Swinburne, I'm going to guess it's pronounced Swinburne, has previously also highlighted the intellectual property that Netflix would get its hands on in a WBD deal. Perhaps most interesting to Netflix, it owns or has exclusive rights to several iconic franchises that could be exploited for decades to come, including DC Comics, Harry Potter, and Lord of the Rings. Finally, it brings talent, relationships, production assets, and global distribution scale. Interesting. I don't want them to oversaturate the way Disney has with the Star Wars franchise. I almost feel like we kind of got fatigue from all the Star Wars programming that Disney Plus did. And I hope they don't do that with DC Comics where they completely oversaturate. Or what they could do is they could pull a Marvel and actually explore other DC comic characters that aren't Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman. like their DC does have hundreds of comic book characters as well, but they seem to only focus on like 2 or 3 for the last like 75 years. So Netflix could do something with those other characters. Another thing that I find interesting is that the Lord of the Rings property. How if they now own the Lord of the Rings franchise, what does that do for Amazon's Rings of, I think it's called Rings of Power? And I want to say that's a Lord of the Rings property, or is it not a Lord of the Rings like proper property because it's called Rings of Power? Is it a spinoff and therefore not the same thing? Kind of like how with Child's Play, you have the Child's Play movies, then you have the Chucky movies, which there was some I guess legal reason why certain movies are named Child's Play and while certain movies are named Bride of Chucky, Son of Chucky, Seed of Chucky. It's because that one company owns the name Child's Play, whereas Don, I'm forgetting his name. I'm blanking on so many names tonight. The creator of Child's Play actually owns the Chucky name, but he doesn't own the name Child's Play unless he recently reacquired it. But that sort of thing with the Rings of Power versus Lord of the Rings. I just know that Rings of Power is on Amazon, so it'd be interesting to see how that works out. Okay, so anything else here? And please hold on. I will get to the comments eventually. I just want to get through this article. The same is true for HBO and HBO Max. HBO brings its own set of IP built over the past few decades with HBO original series, Swinburne highlighted. It also has a brand still largely synonymous with prestige TV. HBO has also largely made the pivot from linear distribution to streaming, implying Netflix would have minimal exposure to legacy TV headwinds. We estimate only 10 to 15% of its roughly 130 million global subscribers are still signed up through wholesale pay TV packages, aka cable TV. They're saying only 130 million people globally are still signed up through cable to watch HBO. The majority, I think it's implying that because only 10 to 15% would be the minority amount, leaving 85 to 90% of people being subscribed solely via the streaming app. The biggest hurdle for Netflix WBD combination is widely seen as being regulatory concerns, but that is more of a headache for the streamer rather than WBD. Even before news of the exclusive talks, Bernstein analyst Lauren Yoon argued that going with Netflix's takeover bid was a win-win for the seller. WBD faces little downside, at least one worth taking, he wrote. Either they get acquired by Netflix, 85% cash, or they walk away with free capital to fund the next phase of growth. So this is saying this deal is not technically done yet, but it's close to being done. So that's what that means. More than $5 billion is enough to produce more than 20 Superman-scale blockbuster films. That's not a bad outcome either. Many in Hollywood are fearful of the deal, with theater owners group Cinema United saying in a statement overnight that quote, the proposed acquisition of Warner Brothers by Netflix poses an unprecedented threat to the global exhibition business. Now, when they say global exhibition, they're meaning specifically theater releases. Now, there have been some streaming movies that were released to theater. I'm trying to think if Netflix has done it. I do know that Amazon has, because that Saltburn movie was a Amazon Studios film, but they did release it to theaters for I think a week or two, but it was mostly available on Amazon. Second thing I want to address is with Netflix acquiring HBO, I really hope that they let HBO still sort of run the way that they have been when it comes to their show running, with the exception of that freak does Euphoria. He's a freak and a liar, but that's another story for another day. Aside from that, HBO tends to be a little bit more hardcore with their work. Like you watch something like Game of Thrones, or you watch even just recently Welcome to Derry. Characters die on HBO. Like, don't get attached. Whereas with Netflix, they're a little bit more soft. They don't go hardcore with a lot of their programming as far as characters dying. They certainly are very PG-13 when it comes to anything that would be romantic or steamy. And HBO does not shy away from both HBO and Amazon are going to show you full frontal nudity when I feel like it. Like that's what they're gonna do. I don't think Netflix programs have done that, but like if you watch The Boys, if you watch again, like I said, Game of Thrones, I think the most tame HBO program I've ever watched was probably Succession. I think that was more tame in terms of like, although still had a main character die. But I don't want Netflix to PG-13 HBO. Like, don't do that. If this acquisition goes through, don't do that to HBO. That's like now that Cinemax is not like really popping like that anymore. That's like their claim to fame is still being, more. I don't want to say edgy because it's not necessarily edgy, but just more hardcore, I guess. I don't want HBO to be neutered. Okay, now the negative impact of this acquisition will impact theaters from the biggest circuits to one-screen independents in small towns in the United States and around the world. Cinema United president and CEO Michael O'Leary said, Cinema United stands ready to support industry changes that lead to increased movie production and give consumers more opportunities to enjoy a day at the local theater. But Netflix's stated business model does not support theatrical exhibition. In fact, it is the opposite. Regulators must look closely at the specifics of this proposed transaction and understand the negative impact it will have on consumers, exhibition, and the entertainment industry. The Directors Guild said that the proposed deal raised significant concerns. Now Hollywood will have to take stock of a mega deal that promises to change the landscape in a way that no deal has before it. Yeah, this is pretty interesting. Now the other side of that is it that Netflix wants to produce movies for the theater? Is it that Netflix wants to produce more things for the big screen? I don't know. I mean, I can't be in their head, so I can't know what their intentions are. But let's see what you guys are saying about this. Let me scroll up. There's quite a few comments on this. Let's see here. Tony Man reminds us that tomorrow on What We Watched Last Weekend, there will be also a brief review of Soul Eater. So that I forgot to mention that. Michael Anthony says, yeah, that makes me nervous. Jake says Supernatural is on Netflix now. Doc Kaiju reminds everyone, please like the stream and subscribe if you haven't. Thank you for reminding me to say that. I always forget to say that. Dieter the Goat is here. Thank you. It says, I will, Doc. Tony says, I hope WB releases all seasons of the Jamie Foxx show. The Wayans, I think the Wayans brothers, what you mean. The Wayans brothers and Homeboys from Outer Space. I forgot about Homeboys from Outer Space. Tom Baker says, today everything is property. How about focusing on artists and not on businessmen? I agree with that. I would like to see more of a focus on art, but I don't know if the pendulum will ever swing back the other way. Doc says, I like how Legendary can't call Kong. Oh, like how Legendary can't call Kong King Kong. Exactly. It's that type of thing where they can make a movie about the subject matter, but they can't use the title of the original. It's very interesting. Tony says, Oz was the first one that did that on HBO. Oh, you're talking the Full Frontal. Yes, Full Frontal. I do remember that. Yeah, and I don't want Netflix to stop HBO from being HBO, you know? HBO is not a PG-13 place mostly. Even with the things like I said with the Welcome to Derry, that one obviously does not have because it features kids, it doesn't have nudity, but it does have gore, and it does have people getting got by the entity known as Pennywise, the dancing clown. It's also related to something we talked about last week. Last week we did discuss Netflix merger with Warner Brothers and how they will now have Warner Brothers and HBO. And this week we have some more Netflix news. This is coming courtesy of the Hollywood Reporter. This is written by Caitlin Houston, and the headline reads: strikes deal with iHeartMedia on video podcasts. Now, is related to horror movies, but not only related to horror movies, or I should say, horror content would be more specific. This is absolutely related to horror content, as there are some horror visual podcasts. So let's get into this. Netflix can't talk again. Netflix strikes deal with iHeartMedia on video podcasts. Video episodes from shows including Charlamagne the God's The Breakfast Club will stream on the platform early in 2026. Netflix is officially bringing more video podcasts onto the streaming giant. Announced a partnership with iHeartMedia to stream new video episodes of more than 15 iHeart podcasts, including Charlamagne the God's The Breakfast Club, My Favorite Murder, Chelsea Handler's Dear Chelsea, Bobby Bones Presents The Bobbycast, and more. The deal, which also includes select library episodes from each show, will see the video podcast episodes launch on Netflix in early 2026 in the US. The deal follows Netflix's announcement in October of a partnership with Spotify to stream video podcast episodes of shows from Spotify Studios and The Ringer, including The Bill Simmons Podcast, The Zach Lowe Show, The McShay Show, The Rewatchables, Conspiracy Theories, and more. All of this comes as Netflix seeks to compete with its main rival, YouTube, which is the most popular platform for video podcasts. As you are watching right now, I am on a video podcast. As part of both the iHeartMedia and Spotify deals, new full video episodes can no longer appear on YouTube and must remain exclusive to Netflix. iHeartMedia retains all audio-only rights and distribution for the shows. So, if you are one of the YouTubers who are now part of the Spotify, Netflix, iHeartMedia deal, it says here, and I will repeat for you, iHeartMedia retains all audio-only rights and distribution for the shows. So they own the rights to those shows now. Netflix CEO Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos had floated the idea of bringing video podcasts to the platform in April 2025, citing the popularity of the medium, and had been reaching out to dozens of agents this fall in an attempt to sign on more podcasters. The lineup of iHeartMedia shows at launch includes The Breakfast Club, Bobby Bones Presents The Bobby Cast, My Favorite Murder, Dear Chelsea, Joe and Jada, This Is Important, The Psychology of Your 20s, Behind the Bastards, Stuff They Don't Want You to Know, and Stuff You Missed in History Class. Stuff to Blow Your Mind, New Rory and Mal, 3 and Out with John Middlecoff, and Buried Bones. Audio podcasting has been the fastest growing medium over the past 20 years, and now we're thrilled to expand that experience with an exciting new category, video podcasts. Netflix has a leading video-first service, and this partnership perfectly complements our strong audio foundation. Working with Netflix, an important leader in entertainment, gives fans one more way to connect with the personalities they love and opens the door to new audiences, including viewers, discovering these shows for the first time, said Bob Pittman, CEO of iHeartMedia. With this partnership, we are incredibly excited to offer our members such unmatched variety and to deliver highly entertaining podcasts featuring some of the world's most dynamic personalities, said Lauren Smith, Netflix Vice President of Content Licensing and Programming Strategy. And that is the end of that. What do you guys think about listening to or watching visual podcasts on Netflix? They wouldn't be the first streaming app to do this because HBO did have podcasts that went along with, I want to say their Watchmen TV series had a podcast that went along with it. There's another one. I can picture Lovecraft Country also had an accompanying podcast that went with it on Spotify. And I'm guessing Welcome to Derry probably has an accompanying podcast that goes along with it on Spotify. Also, there is a podcast on Shudder, which I believe is hosted by Adrienne Barbeau. So this wouldn't be the first time a streamer has done a podcast. Now, with those, though, those were originally produced by either HBO or Shudder. With these are already produced podcasts that Netflix is acquiring rather than producing their own podcasts. So I don't love it. I'm not sure whether it's a thing that's going to work out well. It remains to be seen. We've got to see how they play this, basically. Because we can always speculate as to what we think is going to happen, but until we see how they go about this, will they keep things absolutely the same? Will they make changes? We'll have to wait till 2026 to see that. But as it stands, I'm not sure will people be willing to pay to see The Breakfast Club on Netflix? I don't know. I mean, even on YouTube, their viewership is not particularly high. I can't speak about the other podcasts. The Breakfast Club made a pivot because they were a morning radio show to now being a podcast. I wouldn't listen to, that's just me. It's not my cup of tea. Maybe other people, it's their cup of tea. But if you're watching this on a replay or if you're in the comments, let me know how you feel about Netflix not only taking over Warner Brothers and HBO, but now having this deal with iHeartMedia, which was formerly Clear Channel, if I'm not mistaken. It's monopoly shaped, we'll say that. But we'll see, because we've seen this also. I mentioned last week about Amazon taking over MGM. It's now Amazon MGM Studios, and so now we have Netflix taking over. I just said it. I just said it's not Paramount, is it? I know it's HBO, Warner Brothers. It's Warner Brothers. Where does that leave Paramount, though? Is anyone partnering with Paramount? I don't recall. Someone let me know in the comments where if you know offhand where Paramount stands, but I definitely know Netflix has got Warner Brothers in a bag and HBO in a bag, and now this deal with iHeartMedia. I am surprised that they got Rory and Mal because I kind of felt like their viewership was also on the decline, but I guess I'm mistaken. I thought that the Breakfast Club and Rory and Mal both had kind of lower viewership. Maybe Netflix feels like they can turn it around. Maybe they feel like they can do something a little different and get the viewership back on those. Or maybe that's why they were able to acquire those particular podcasts, because they were on a decline, and Netflix feels like, we can buy this failing thing and get it back up to speed. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Bill Chill says, "Oh yeah, I read that." BC says the world is monopolizing. Doc Kaiju says too true, and workers are being replaced with robots while the support net disintegrates. Absolutely. CJ says, okay, I'm not the quickest thinker and miss nuance and a lot, but this feels really sketch. What's the thing about them owning the audio distribution? I'll go back and read that line again. All of this comes as Netflix seeks to compete with its main rival, YouTube, which is the most popular platform for video podcasts. As part of both the iHeartMedia and Spotify deals, new full video episodes can no longer appear on YouTube and must remain exclusively on Netflix. iHeartMedia retains all audio-only rights and distribution for the shows. So these people will not own the rights to the audio for their shows. iHeartMedia will own the rights to the audio for their shows. Doc says, I hate the takeover. Legendary goes through Warner Brothers for distribution. So Godzilla fans are worried they might move GK Supernova to a home release or only a limited cinema release. BC says, it's kind of like with music. They own the rights to the audio. So if it gets replayed, they make money off of it. Sandy says, I've already canceled my Netflix subscription months ago. Prices got ridiculous. Not worth it. Doc says, I would say people should revolt and boycott Netflix, but not enough people have ever joined a Netflix boycott for it to work. People are too lazy to pirate for a good cause. I love that. Yes, people are. This also becomes a problem for reaction channels, because there are people who react to podcast conversations. If iHeartMedia owns all audio only rights, that means they're going to ding YouTube reactors that may be reacting to a snippet from a podcast, and that becomes an issue. It's very hard to plan for a future that is so uncertain. So uncertain. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. It's hard to plan for a future that is very uncertain. So in the meanwhile, let's watch some horror movies, have some fun, and I guess live in the moment.